Very good. Nicely timed, Dave.
Yeah.
Very good. Right, mate. Let's check if we're live. Let's have a little look at good old Facebook.
Yeah, we're live. Got the notification.
Let's see. I'm always conscious of going on there.
We've got it.
We've got it. Are you sure?
Yeah, the
live
popped up.
Nice. Awesome, guys. Hello, everyone. Another Tuesday tune-in on what's been a crazy morning of wet weather here in Wales. I'm not sure what's been like with you guys. But yeah, if you have joined us, do say hello. As always, I can see Shona, Laura, Kelly, Jane, Tina, Bri, Ramona, Amanda, James, Julie. Wow, this is like poetry there. Kind of flowed like quite nicely.
That's James, Ashley, and Julie, not James, Julie.
Yeah, they sounded similar. But yeah, nice to see so many people on today. And yeah, so today, guys, is all about water essentially. I know maybe some of you have seen Dave's post today or the email. It was around National Water Saving Day. It wasn't really Dave's fault, but Dave, it's not today, is it?
No, it's not. It's next week. But all the water could be gone by then. So We've decided there's no time like the present. So we're going to talk about it today. And then next week we can have National Water Day because we saved it. so that's our plan.
Exactly, mate. Exactly.
Yeah, to be fair, I could have checked. But I just took it as read. I was like, yeah, it's not even National Water Saving Day. It's Water Saving Week.
A week, isn't it? Yeah.
And it doesn't start till tomorrow. But I figured, there's no time like the present, so we'll talk about it. It's been billions of gallons of water have been falling out of the sky for a solid week in Wales now. So it's let's just get this over and done with and go back to the good weather next week, I think.
No, it's certainly been a bit mixed, isn't it? I don't want to sound like we're like the 6 o'clock weather forecast here, but yeah, it was some cool conditions over the weekend. On Friday, I was lucky to be in North Wales, and there was some lovely winter conditions up there, plenty of snow, which was fantastic. I've seen some pictures from up in Scotland as well, near the Cairngorms, which looked pretty epic. Very jealous because I think the snow was above the knees. That's some deep stuff, especially in May. But so we've been discussing things around water. Obviously, water that freezes is ice, which, as Dave said earlier, is very beautiful. And, we thought we'd talk about that today. Dave, where should we start? I know we've talked a little bit off live around, obviously, the water filters, around saving water.
Yeah.
Different things. Where do you want to start today, mate?
So I think we're always going to talk about these water filters because obviously many of you already know about it, many of you might not. Yeah. But we do... water is pretty much, it comes up, I think, on every live. So we thought, we're going to do a live about it because there's so many different factors of a trip that are affected by water, where it comes from, what state it's in. And it's quite interesting to break it down because I was thinking about it and I was thinking, well, showers, we discussed about water. You're drinking water, we discuss water. Gokyo Lake, we discuss because it's water. The Patagonia ice fields trek, we need that water to stay there and stay frozen for that to run. So water. Yeah. So there's so many different things that we think about, and and it's important for us to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
I think the one thing we want to start thinking about. And start making a concerted effort for is the conservation of it, and also the sort of the waste that can go into sort of bringing water to places like the Khumbu particularly, because there are places that sell it all the way up to Everest Base Camp, which means that it's very, very easy and convenient just to buy bottled water whenever you want it. But then the majority of people, there's a tendency to just throw those bottles in the bins that are provided. But that means, by and large, that bottle arrives in the Khumbu. It gets drunk in the Khumbu, and then it gets left in the Khumbu, and it's up to someone else to bring it down. So it all costs money. It creates litter, there's a plastic bottle on a glacier where there otherwise wouldn't be. So we want to try and avoid that as much as possible by bringing in the water filters. So that's one of the big things that we really super proud of. And a little bit gutted that so many of you, obviously because of COVID, haven't been able to experience how great these water filters are on the trips, because they are magnificent. It means that we get all our water from local water sources, like flowing water in the region, whether that be from a river, a glacial runoff, or a tap. I'm assuming the tap is connected to a glacier somewhere.
I was going to say,
And
so somewhere it's connected to a water source, right?
exactly, yeah, and that just means that so aside from one destination on the Everest Base Camp trip, all of the water that you guys drink, everything in the bottles that you bring with you, like the
Yeah.
Nalgene's or whatever, to what's in your bladder, multiple times a day, it's filled up from a local source, it's drank, and it's peed back out, and then it's like there's equilibrium and no waste. So yeah, we absolutely love that.
Nice, Dave. I think something what you said there as well is around the conservation of it, and I think one thing we've noticed, even over the literally 5 years now since Evertrek was formed, around how much it's changed with the glaciers as well. Like going up there the first time, Dave, I remember you saying that you literally walked onto the glacier or the
Yeah,
Khumbu Glacier Everest Base Camp, and then the last time we went, I believe the last time you went was it October 2019?
yeah.
See, crazy that it's
I know. I should have done
talking
it
about
another.
that.
I think there's another 3 trips that were going to happen to
Mm,
Nepal since October. Yeah, but I was there on Everest Base Camp, October 31st, 2019. That was the
that's right.
last. That was my last visit.
And I remember you telling me that instead of sort of walking onto it, it was almost 100 meters lower, right?
Yeah, yeah,
You were walking down to it, which is surreal, and that is such a small time scale that it's
yeah.
actually constricting that much, and you can see it in real time, which
Well,
is shocking, really. I mean, obviously we like you guys, we watch documentaries, we read up on these, we do the research around obviously climate change, and it's obviously happening in real time, unfortunately, which is in some ways, a lot of you on here I know have already been to Everest Base Camp. Some of you haven't yet. I can't wait for you to see it. It's ready and waiting for when we're allowed to go out there. The same as say the glaciers on Kili. Obviously, they've receded a little bit. When
yeah,
we were on there, Dave, I mean, it's even though it's receded, there's a hell of a lot of ice up there, wasn't it? I was surprised, like, wow,
yeah.
this
That's
is
the
crazy.
that's the funny thing. I think only if you go to these places repeatedly do you get like a comparison year on year. Because I remember when I first went to Everest Base Camp was when was it? October 2016, I think, was my first ever trip. And those of you that have been to Everest Base Camp know that the trek from Gorek Shep to base camp pretty much is on the edge of the glacier. And I remember there was almost no elevation change from that path that leads to base camp. It was a little bit down, but not
Yeah,
much at all. And then I went back just a year later, and the dip, you had to go down maybe like 20, 30 meters down that trail to get actually to the base camp cairn, if you will. And then if you fast forward that again, I went every year up until 2019, and yeah, it's like 100 meter down now. It's a huge drop.
yeah,
And I
big,
was
isn't it?
talking to our guide Nima, who's been guiding on Everest Base Camp for over 30 years. He's been to. Yeah, I asked him how many times he's been to base camp, and he stopped counting at around 300 times.
Yeah,
He has no idea. But what
he
he
was on
did say
Everest in
was
'96, right?
he was in Everest in '96.
Mm.
Yeah, so he went up to. So he was on Everest and was portering portering up to, I think he made Camp 4.
Yeah,
And then his team that he was with then, not one of the teams you would have perhaps heard of, actually retreated down because of the threat of bad weather. And it was actually after '96 that he said he was no longer going to climb Everest.
right.
He was going to stick to trekking and doing the smaller peaks like Island Peak. He said he sort of got to Camp 4 and he saw what happened in '96, and you can imagine how that would put
Yeah, that
anyone off.
must be.
But
If anyone, we're talking about '96 because it was the Everest disaster. I don't know if you've seen the film Everest. I know we've talked about it a lot of times, and also the book Into Thin Air, which was one of the inspirations for me to go to Nepal and then in turn start the company. So yeah, although not a great situation, it was something positive to come out of it. But anyway,
yeah.
I digress. Sorry, Dave. I know you were talking there.
No, but yeah, I mean, the one thing that he said was, because I remarked on how the glacier had changed just from
Yeah,
2016. He told me that like 20, 30 years ago, the ice fall and that, brilliant white, typical, like in your mind's eye, what a
yeah,
glacier
yeah,
looks
yeah.
like, was all the way down to Gorakshep. But then if you go there now, obviously
That's
it looks like
surreal.
the surface of the moon.
Yeah,
Where landslides have been landing on the ice from the sides of the glacier, and actually there's not much ice being pushed from the ice fall now to replace it. And I've even heard, talking about water, there's running water now as high as Camp 2 on Everest,
yeah,
which
that's
there
crazy.
wasn't sort of 10 years ago. it was all frozen solid. So
Yeah,
yeah, it all kind of goes into this conservation of sort of I suppose it's climate change and stuff like that, really. But
yeah.
conservation of water is an important factor that goes into that.
I think one thing it does remind us that we've all got to do our part if we can, and motivated to do what we can. Essentially, I mean, I know I've spoken about this a couple of times, but we had our Evertrek climate plan, which we released about 6-7 weeks ago now, about just some things that we're looking to do over the next 12 months, and then work towards 2030 by reducing our carbon emissions by 55% by that time, which is, I mean, we'd like to aim for more than that, but us and over other 100 travel companies and suppliers have committed to doing that. And the more companies we get on there, the better. If you're linked to any sort of company at all, do sort of Google declare a climate emergency and share that with other companies, because the more companies we get on there, will have a bigger impact.
Yeah,
Although we don't want to be emailing all of our all the other events travel companies out there, we have tried to sort of forward it a little bit and persuade some of our partners to do the same. Because I think the more we can do, the sooner we do it. Obviously, we're protecting these places, and it does come, when we come back to water, and how important it is. I mean, I've seen a couple of comments come through. I love Bry's save water, drink beer. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Not on the way up though, Bry, on the way down, right?
yeah,
But on the way up, obviously, drinking water is vital in terms of hydration, in terms of altitude. And I know I go on about this all the time, but 99 times out of 100, any altitude issue, altitude sickness can normally go back to hydration. So if you get water right, you're there. You're already there. Like, you can get unlucky, of course, but it's so important drinking enough water. 3, 4, 5 liters a day, making sure you're hydrated, especially if you're on Diamox, because you're going to be peeing more. So you need to be drinking more water. And there's a couple of questions that come through. I think it was actually from Jerome. And Jerome, I hope the vaccination went well. And thanks for joining us, mate. You put, do we buy bottled water on the trail, support the local trade, or do we not buy plastic bottles? And yes, so we do not buy plastic bottles anymore. Some people who've been with us historically, before we introduced water filters and we only had chlorine tablets. I've bought plastic bottles. Dave has. A lot of people have. But in March 2019 is when we introduced those water filters, and then we encourage everyone then not to buy plastic bottles unless it's last resort. The only, especially in Nepal now, the only difference would be in Gorakshet, because there's no water source there essentially, or decent water source. I know you're not a million miles away from the glacier, but we still recommend that would be the only place that we kind of say buy bottled water. We don't want to pressure anyone either. If you want to buy bottled water because you want different, it's completely up to you. But this is just something that we're working towards, and
exactly.
And use the water filters and the water you're provided rather than the plastic bottles.
Exactly, and it's like, it's not no one's after sort of perfection. You don't have to be Captain Planet, but you want to strive to be.
Captain
So
Planet.
yeah. So where there's no, like, it's not necessary to buy the water anymore, and there are lots of other things that you can do to support the local trade. One, just by going there, so just by turning up and booking and using the lodges and stuff like that. That, to be fair, we organize it all, but that's everything they need, plus the meals. So the room and the meals is really their bread and butter. And then there's also, like, you can buy some chocolate bars, some snacks and things like that. So the water is not the be all and end all, but it could be the be all and end all for the environment. So that we're happy to sort of adopt the filters, use the water, and the guides and everything like that. They're all super happy. And actually, there is a thought in the Khumbu anyway about, they've banned single-use plastics and stuff, but you will still see them making their way there. So the general consensus is amongst everyone in the Khumbu is that it's better for them and better for everybody if another way is found.
Exactly. And you made a good point there about Captain Planet. or being a hero. Like, none of us are perfect, me included. There's things I do that, in my personal life, maybe that I could change. And I'm working towards changing. And, but if you can do something as soon as you can and make some changes, especially when you're out there, you don't have to be 100% perfect, but doing something's better than doing nothing. And that's how the angle we take.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can show you how it's helping and how it's working. Like the first season, that we brought these water filters in, it stopped 16,500 plastic bottles from being bought. And stacking those on top of each other, if you were to do that, was 5 times the height of Ben Nevis. So in terms of amount of plastic, that was considerable. Just to put that into context a little bit. And that was just one season. We haven't had many seasons since. Because
I know. Yeah, that's the thing.
COVID,
old Uncle COVID turned up and decided that the best way to avoid bringing plastic to the Khumbu was to avoid anything going there. I mean, I know some people are out there now, but yeah,
that's
we're
another
comfortable.
story.
Yeah, that's another live, that one. Yeah, maybe
That's another live.
maybe next year.
Mad, absolutely.
But
mad.
no, it is interesting, and it's important part of the like you said, the acclimatization as well. It is so key. That any time I've ever seen anyone suffer with like altitude sickness or suffering any of the symptoms, the first thing the guides, any medic, a doctor, anybody will ask you is, what have you drunk in the last 24 hours? How much have you drunk?
Yeah.
Almost always they'll say a liter or liter and a half, which is not enough, because what we always say is, like, when you go up to altitude, even without Diamox, you'll start noticing you'll be peeing more. That's your body acclimatizing, and it's all part of the process. So it's not just exercise and stuff like that. You have to do it. One thing I always do as well, like just going on to about the saving water, is I'll avoid having a shower for the whole trip as well, and just bring like some of those, what they call them, biodisposable, like wet wipes and stuff like that.
You were talking about it before, Dave, weren't you? About like obviously saving, because we're talking about saving water. And hey, Marky V's just joined on his vaccination jobby today. Hope it goes well. Dave, you were talking about limiting showers, using wet wipes that dispose, and you can get the
Well, I
ones
don't
for
I don't
Kathmandu.
I don't use the showers on the trips. I have done, but it's more effort than it's worth. It's cold. You run the risk of like getting like a head cold or a chest cold or something, and so no, I don't. Generally speaking, I just get you can buy these biodisposable wet wipes, and if you use them, you can use them for everything. So they do go a long way. You can like wash your body with them, you can wash your kit with them, you can wash everything with them and stuff like that. And then I have a little like dry sack that I then stuff the used ones in and just zip them up. And then when I get back to Kathmandu, then I just get rid of them. But most people only have about 1 or 2 showers anyway, so it's really making little difference. And it's the biggest difference is like you feel good, but with the wet wipes and stuff like that,
your mind. It's good for your mind, isn't it, Dave?
Yeah, it is. But it's also cold, man. It's like I remember the last shower I had in my base camp trip, which when I decided, right, that's it, I'm done, was it was in Dingboche in April when we were there, and I thought I'm gonna have a shower, and I was walking out the shower and it started snowing, and it took me like hours to warm back up again. And I realized then, that was a silly idea. No, never again, never again. I'll just smell.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I think thing is though, that smell doesn't exactly stand out because everyone's in the same boat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So after a while, I mean, I'm quite lucky because I've got a nose issue. I can't really smell. Soon to be rectified, but I'm quite lucky when I'm in like, say there's 20, 30 people in the trekking house or tea house or lodge. I can't smell anyone, and I can tell you it does, and it's bad. Especially after several days in the mountains and no showers. But that's part of the adventure. That's it's not Disneyland. It's adventure travel.
I just noticed Leah's just Googled Captain Planet. Do they not have Captain Planet in Australia? I mean, to be honest, I think I might be like anyone sort of younger than me will probably not even realize who Captain Planet is. Yeah, but there was
maybe
like
Captain America is
four or
another
five
version.
friends, wasn't it? 4 or 5 friends. They all had rings, and the rings did. So what would happen is the story would be some bad environmental catastrophe would happen. They would fight it on their own with some success using their individual powers with the rings, but then it would become too difficult. So when their powers combine, they call Captain Planet. He's our hero. He's going to bring pollution back to zero, right?
That was a hell of a metaphor there, mate.
Mate, they did all the work. They did all the work. You know, this was in the 80s, man. This was in the 80s. They knew what was coming.
Yeah. Mad,
But
isn't it?
yeah.
You
So
think they would have done
Jane
something
Goody's
about
got
it
it in
soon?
her head. Yeah, that is he, Captain Planet. See, that's going to be the worst. Ramona also advocate in, saving water by sharing with a friend. I suppose it depends who you're sort of in bunking
Yeah.
with. Yeah.
Yeah, Dave, we keep ours separate.
Yeah.
Good man. Well, right, Dave, what's the kind of next thing then? I know we talked about, okay, so we talked about water, trekking or altitude, sustainable, sustainability around obviously not using plastic bottles. What about the places there, like the lakes? I know we've talked about it obviously in the Everest region, but what about the others? I know one trip in particular in Peru we've been talking about the last sort of week or so, haven't we?
That's it, yeah. So whilst we're on the subject of water,
Yeah.
so one of the so recently, it's box fresh. So we've launched Lake Titicaca. So there's a lovely little sort of like 4-day itinerary there, which you can add on to the Machu Picchu trip. I know some of you were asking about it as well.
Yeah.
So we looked into it, and it is actually really interesting. Initially, I honestly just thought it's a lake. You know, how fun can it be? But it's actually fantastic. Like you go out on the water and you can meet the Uros people. But hopefully I pronounced that right, where they make these man-made islands out of reeds harvested from Lake Titicaca, and they basically live there.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. Sorry, I just got distracted by Joel Palmer asking, "Can you wash with we?" You can wash with any liquid, mate. You can wash with any liquid. It's about whether or not you want to. You know.
Wow.
And I think it's best if you use your own. But no, back to Lake Titicaca. Yeah, it is amazing. Like you do get to go to these like man-made islands and actually stay with the indigenous families there as well. So you'll have like a host family that'll, you'll get to know and do some stuff like that. So we've really tried to turn it into a really enriching type of trip as well. It's not just going to take pictures of a pretty lake.
Well, yeah, I mean, because this is one thing we're always keen for, and I think Lauren Fee, who's on the comments, have posted a little link there. It is. We always like to try and keep our trips challenging, edgy, rugged, difficult, because that's the type of trips we do. But that being said, if you're in Peru and there's other things to do, yeah, go for it. And it's also the world's highest navigable lake, isn't it, Dave? So it's not technically the world's highest lake, but the world's highest lake that you can navigate around. So sail around. So it sounds pretty cool. So yeah, it's something that we we're always looking at new things in the countries we now operate. Obviously, South America is relatively new for us in terms of trips. So we're always looking at new kind of things, especially myself with my scuba diving background is I'd like to do some add-ons around the Galapagos Islands. If you're in that neck of the woods, why not? If you're climbing some mountains and you want to do 4 or 5 days, relax, after it. Similar to what we do in Tanzania, we can go down to Zanzibar and chill out for a few days on a beach.
Yeah.
We like to sort of bring that in as well, in South America. So yeah, there'll definitely be some other kind of trips that we'll look to add on, as soon as we can, with all the other stuff that we're doing as well.
Yeah.
Like Dave, we've had some questions, but something I want to talk about before we go into that is that obviously current situation. You can't get around that. It's at the moment, red list, green list, amber, all this stuff. And clear is obviously very challenging out there right now. I couldn't believe that we're here in May 21 and March last year it was with what happened and things come down. I didn't realize that we'd still be having to reschedule, having to change dates, all that stuff. I appreciate everyone's patience around that because I, like you, want to get back to the mountains. So yeah, with that in mind, obviously it's challenging for all of our team, in countries. You got Nepal and Tanzania are the two countries we kind of work closely with, over the last couple of years. So with those people, they're very, not that the others aren't, but because they're kind of brand new. But with Nepal and Tanzania, we got very close relationships with the team in each of those countries. And we've helped Nepal a couple of times already. We had the jackets for guides little fundraiser we did, which is fantastic, and I really thank everyone who got involved with that. We also did some fundraising right at the beginning, and I think we raised about $5,000 that went over to Nepal. But now it's continuing, and the people are still struggling at the end of the day, guides, team, staff. Obviously, in the UK, we're all good. But, we wanted to do something else to kind of support our team in those countries. So we came up with, kind of joint team effort, but Dave came up with this name actually, which I thought it was good. Strides for Guides is going to be something that we're going to be doing in June. Dave, great name, love it. Essentially, I mean, we'll obviously release this and launch this, but I wanted to give you kind of a little sneak preview of Strides for Guides. Is that basically we're going to be doing some trekking in June. We're thinking around about sort of 100 kilometers each. We're going to link it up to Strava. We're going to get all that stuff that we can. We're going to map it all out for you. I say it's going to be launching in June, but I wanted to give you all a little intro, and then basically try and raise some money for Tanzania and for Nepal. We're going to aim to say get to about £10,000, and we really want to obviously get our community involved in that. So you can get out there and you can do some trekking in June. Try and get to aim for 100k, 100 kilometers. And obviously whilst raising money, and all that money then is going to go to a good place, similar to before. So so Strides for Guides is what we're going to be doing. Really excited about that. And it's Mark, but it's supporters for porters. You know what, that name did come up, but unfortunately it's not just about the porters, it's about all the team. That's why we came up with Strides for Guides. But we'll be releasing all the nitty-gritty details in due course, but I just wanted to kind of put that out there. There's a lot of you, big part of the community, people on here already. I know a lot of you are out there training anyway, and it's a great way to get out, do some training, do some trekking while supporting the team. Shona just put, was it Diane will probably do 100k in one day. I said, well, she could do it. Yeah, that's fine. But yeah, something around that is going to be great anyway. So Dave, well done for coming up with the name.
You're welcome, mate. That's me. I'm just like a Pez dispenser for catchphrases, But yeah, no, it's really exciting. It's good. Unfortunately, I'll be taking more of a administrative role in the entire process. 100 kilometers is far beyond my capabilities at the moment. 100 steps, maybe I could probably manage.
Well, mate, everyone's Everest is different, right? And
exactly.
We'll work out your version of it.
Exactly. My Everest is getting from the canteen back to the office, like that's pretty much it for me.
Good man.
But yeah, no, it's going to be fantastic as well. And obviously, the situation keeps developing and developing.
Yeah.
And, it's one of those where you think it's down and it gets back up again. And eventually I think we will have it under control and have our foot on its neck. But COVID at the moment obviously is wreaking havoc. So I think we're quite lucky. The UK's, doing a good job of keeping on top of it, but obviously India and Nepal and places like that are struggling, and also Tanzania. So yeah, awesome. I'm excited to see what you guys can do from the comfort of my office.
I wonder how much that we can, how much, what sort of distance as a community we can come up with. That'd be quite interesting, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
All stacked together. We'll work that out at the end.
I have been keeping a close eye on the comments, and there does seem to be a lot of conversation about whether you can or can't wash with pee. Apparently, there's camel pee is great for hair.
And that was Joel that came up with that, wasn't it, Joel?
I'm wondering, great for hair. How? Will it help regrow bald hair? Is it like a tonic for bald heads, or is it like just for keeping your hair thick and healthy? Either way, I'm just going to probably stick to some Alberto balm or something, something like that.
Brilliant.
No, yeah. I honestly think that there's, unless, something like drastic happens on one of our trips, you probably won't end up drinking your own pee, unless you have a, prior interest. But
nice.
One question Ramona's asked, green water off the glacier going to EBC.
I read that. Yeah.
Always assumed it was because glacier squeezes out the oxygen. Someone pointed out that it would be H2. I don't really know that, to be honest. I'll look it up. I've never seen green glacial runoff. If I did, I would assume it was some form of algae. But I don't know.
It could be something to do with that. The pressure releasing it. I'd say normally as water melts, it doesn't generally change color, but it could. I mean, I'm just trying to put my scientific hat on here.
Yeah.
It could be the H2 element coming out, but yeah, that's an interesting question, isn't it? It'd be Good question, Ramon. That's not what we've been asked before, but we'll definitely come back to you.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, good question, though, Dave. I know we've a few other questions. I will just bring up. Who was it? I think it was Jerome again asked around EBC treks in October. Not looking good at the Mo, postponed or not. Yeah, again, I go back to something we just talked about then about obviously the red list and the green list, and everyone that's kind of booked this year. We did send a little update yesterday on all of our trips. If you haven't read that email, do check it out. Just a little update around that because a lot of our trips are currently on the red list at the moment, typically.
Yeah.
Which isn't great currently. We're kind of positive around the autumn, but like before, guys, it's a still kind of wait and see jobby at the moment. Very much like we've done before, in terms of if you're not happy with that uncertainty, which I know some people aren't, you can reschedule for free with any date change, anything like that at all. We want to get you to these places, guys. It's just a matter of time. Like I said, we thought we'd be there by now. We can't wait to kind of get out, and we've obviously done it. We've done it locally so far, and we can't wait to run some trips in the UK, especially the training weekends. And obviously, they're going to be fine. It's all the trips externally, in places like Nepal and Tanzania. But as we know, that can change like that. But in some parts of the world, obviously, it is challenging at the moment. Especially because of what happened in India, which has now gone over to Nepal. But we're thinking about the autumn; it'll be fine. So we'll have to just kind of wait and see with that. So with regards to sorry to go back to your question, Jerome. I know you're probably just sort of thinking out loud a little bit. It comes down to yourself, mate. I wouldn't say whether to reschedule or not. You can keep it and wait and see, and then closer to the time. I know I saw some comments about other companies, and I think if it's still on the red list, 120 days before you travel, they're not doing those trips. Well, that just categorically we're not doing that. We're kind of we'd like to leave it closer to the time before we make that decision. But that being said, we'll let you know as soon as we know if we think it's going to be challenging and not able to go ahead, mate. And that goes for everyone, because I know a lot of people on here have got trips booked in. You're excited to go. You want to get out there. I know how you feel. I understand the frustrations, but we'll obviously get on these trips as soon as we're allowed, and as soon as they go onto the green list.
Exactly.
Which means obviously from a UK perspective, and I know we got people on here that are not just in the UK. But yeah, obviously, as a UK company, it's difficult for us to run any trips where 90% of our customers can't go on these trips. So yeah, we'll definitely be looking at that. I think something we've also talked about is we're trying to, maybe because of the restrictions, now we don't want to get away too far from what we do, which is high altitude, but it's all about training. So we might be able to get some more different types of trips in the UK. Again, we'll liaise with some of our teams, some of our suppliers that are in the UK, that we can create some of those trips in the UK, so you don't have to travel too far. And it's still great. So anything like that, we'll definitely give you guys a nudge.
Awesome.
But yeah, guys, just to say as well, any questions, do drop them in, because I know we've got a few left. But obviously, we are here to answer some questions as well. So any questions around the trip, anything at all, do fire them in.
Yeah. So I noticed Deirdre McDonald, a question about payments.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% clear on, but I think you said you wanted to make a payment on the 14th. But yeah, anything like that, just drop us an email, info@evertrek.co.uk, and I can sort that. We can sort that out for you like really easily. But just drop us an email about the payments. We can sort that out. And yeah, Warren Day has asked, how much filtered water can we get from you guys per day? Is there a limit? How much you can drink. So that's the limit. So,
good question. Good question.
You get as much as you need. So there's no limit on the amount of water that we can provide. Generally speaking, we advise some people say 3 to 4, 4 to 5. If you're in that ballpark, I would say a minimum of 3 liters a day, and then upwards from there, depending on how much you sweat, how hot it is, that type of thing. But you'll get water in the mornings when you set off. You'll get water at lunch, and then you'll get water at the end of the trek as well when you arrive at the next lodge. So there's plenty of opportunity, to get as much water and stuff like that as you need. So I guarantee you 2 things you won't be short of, and that's water and food. So yeah, we'll provide you with plenty of that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'd only thinking when you get to the end of the 4 liters and you're still thirsty, you'd be like, no, no, you've had yours. No, no,
Yeah.
honestly, Warren, yeah, mate, you when it comes to that kind of thing, yeah, you have what you want. Um, you need it. You need it. It's yeah, we wouldn't want to stop you from getting any water. But yeah, but valid question around that. Yeah, there's not like a certain quota or anything. If you need water, mate, you have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dave, what questions are next, mate? I know we've had a few
So
come
having
in
a
just
look
then.
at this, Leah has asked, where do you get the replacement filters for the Evertrek
Yeah.
water bottles? So the company that manufactures them is called Water to Go. So you can get the replacement filters from those guys. I'm not sure how many liters of water they do, but there's quite a lot. So more than a few treks worth of a filterage out of those, and then yeah, Water to Go, you'll get the replacements. And I saw another comment as well. Surely I'm not old enough to remember Led Zeppelin. Well, yes, I am, but also mainly I listened to Led Zeppelin because when I was growing up, that's the music that my dad would listen to. And I've gone full circle now. And now, yeah, regardless of what music was sort of around when I was a kid, it was whatever my dad was playing. So Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, a lot of the 70s rock and stuff like that. So yeah, that's where this comes from. This might even be my old man's T-shirt. I think I might have nabbed it off him.
Nice. Very good. How many bottles? Yeah, Suzette, I'll bring in your question. How many bottles will we carry? So in terms of bottles, yeah, I mean, obviously you can carry your own water bottles, but what we generally do is have, like the porters and guides will kind of know the process. But essentially, if you say you had one water bottle and after say breakfast, everyone leaves them on the side. It's good sometimes to have your name on it, or at least if it's similar to someone else's, make it a little bit different. Put maybe a little band around it or something. And then what they'll do is the guys will come and collect it, and then they'll go out back. They'll use like this big. They have a bucket where it has a pipe coming off it, and then on that pipe then is the filter, and then that water they'll put it in the bucket and it'll filter down into the bottles. And then after your breakfast, like magic, those water bottles which you left will now be filled with water.
Yeah.
So don't think that you have to carry those all with you. And as well as those water bottles, and something we always recommend as well is having basically like a little reservoir. So they call it like a platypus that goes in your bag. So you can also have like a liter, 2 liters or something if you want to carry it that goes inside that you can just, as you go, you can sip. The pipe comes out and then you can sip that as you go. We always like to sort of say, looky, looky, sippy, sippy. If you're stopping to look around, take a sip. So yeah, you can see essentially you've got then where your bottle and you've got your hydration pack, which is like the reservoir. And then every time you stop, that we can repeat that process when people need water, as well as if you're stopping to have tea or coffee, because that helps as well. If you're having a couple of cups of tea, that'll help. Yeah, or if you want to, something Dave does is have these little what is it, Dave? Those squirty squash things you use, right?
Yeah. So I really struggle to drink like the amount of water that I'm required to if it's just plain water. Some people can do it. I really, really struggle with it.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I use the little Robinson's little like squash bottles like that, the highly concentrated like squash. Get a couple of them, a couple of different flavors. I
Yeah.
also perhaps bring some Baroccas, some hydration stuff, like the little hydration tablets you can get when you're doing an event and stuff like that, like a half marathon. Bring some of those as well. I've just thought of something off the top of my head using my superior memory, that if you have like a 50 centiliter filter for our bottles, I'm not reading it, I promise, I'm just looking at there. Yeah, actually, Fee, who's on the phones for us today, has fed me this information. That's about 130 liters, about 2 months. If you get the 75 centiliter filter, that's roughly 200 liters, or the equivalent to sort of 3 full bottles a day for 3 months.
Yeah, nice.
So yeah, they can last a while, and it's one of those things that I don't tend to use the filter all the time. So I'll use the bottle, but I'll take the filter off, and then when I go on a hike or a trip or something, I put the filter back on. So it will it will tend to last like quite a while. But yeah, so one question actually as well now from Lyndon: how do you go about getting a visa for Tanzania? How long before the trip do you advise applying? So we did the whole process sort of online for Tanzania. It took about a week, but I would probably get it about a month before you're due to travel. to give yourself plenty of time and stuff like
Yeah.
that to do it. It's also definitely worth getting the visa beforehand when you go to Tanzania or Nepal or any of the destinations, really, because when you arrive in these destinations, generally speaking, it's going to be a full plane full, possibly 2 or 3 planes, all funneled in, and if you're in Tanzania, to a small room where the queuing process is quite cryptic. So you're not entirely sure which queue you're supposed to be in at any one time. It's boiling hot, you're tired, and if you already have your visa, you just go straight to the end, walk straight through, and it's super easy. Same goes for Nepal, although the room is slightly bigger and the process is a little more straightforward.
Yeah, it's a little more streamlined, isn't it? But I think, Dave, you make a good point there, and especially as travel starts up again, getting it done beforehand will speed up the process 100%. I think that's what we recommend. Because and I think maybe some of the criteria with certain countries, it might change that you might have to do that anyway.
Yeah.
I suppose one thing to think about as well, you don't want to get it too early because, obviously depending on when you go in, Lyndon, you don't want to leave it. You don't want to get it too far before you go because you've got to use it. I forgot the amount. I think it's 3 or 6 months. That before you travel. So, for instance, if you get it 3 months, then you don't actually go for 6 months, that visa you actually expired, so you have to do it again. So yeah, just do kind of wait until, okay, I know my flights are booked, I know I'm going to go on that trip, now I'll do the process for the visa, just so you don't waste your money. I know it's not like massively expensive, but still it's an expense. You're talking, I think it's £40, about $50 I think, for the Tanzania visa. Dave, correct me if I'm wrong on that. I know it's been a while since I've got one, but it's roughly around that in terms of cost. Good question, though. I like that.
Exactly. I got 2 things I want to double check first. So what Jerome just said, Tanzanian security was super picky and strict. I'll be honest with you, Jerome, I had the opposite. So when I came to pay, I handed over my bank card quite naively because I forgot to get cash, didn't have cash. So they don't accept their own currency. So they actually let me leave the airport without a visa through security, outside to the cash machine, come back the wrong way through security, and then change my money and do it. But then once they processed the document, they were pretty strict, to be fair. And secondly, Leah has said she always has a tick kit. Brilliant idea, particularly if you're in going to like the lowlands in Nepal. Yeah, exactly. But what I'm curious of is she also has a snake kit, and I'm wondering what's in a snake kit, because I don't imagine there's a great deal you can do once a snake has bit you. I mean, what you do is that just like a stick that you like whack it with or something?
Machete comes out.
Do you remember like the Simpsons episode where they have that snake hitting day? Is it like, what do you do? Like, I mean, I imagine if you get bit by a snake in Australia, you just kind of lie down and accept your fate, right? Or like run back and try and get some anti-venom as quick as you can.
Good question.
We only have adders. We only have adders in the UK, don't we? Which are like, apparently you're getting bit by one of them is it's like getting stung by a bee or something like that. You can have a reaction, but it's unlikely.
Yeah, exactly. Alan is on here. Alan Smith. Alan, great to see you on. Are the treks in 22 getting a bit overfilled because of rescheduling? Yeah, it's it's one of the challenges we face, mate. It's certainly we've had to open up more capacity because naturally, as you can imagine, you've got all those people, all the people who want to go, on certain trips. Yeah. So what we've tried to do is run on some dates. So depending on where you go in there, Alan, we've run 2 concurrent trips. So say you go in on like Saturday, the 20th of a month. There'll be 2 groups going on the same day with their own guide, with their own group, but they'll be trekking at the same time. So that's something we've done. We've also opened some midweek dates just to kind of stretch it out. And we know people, if you're working for yourself or if you you have a certain amount of annual leave, you want to maximize that leave. So obviously going in the week, Wednesday to like Wednesday in a couple of weeks. So depending on how many days you're using, I think it's relatively the same. That's why we decided to do it. But yeah, it's certainly going to be challenging. I think 22 is certainly going to be a busy year. There's no getting around that. But and if maybe you want to want something a bit quieter, we can look at the quieter routes. Maybe even pushing it to 2023 if you want it to be a little bit quiet, or maybe the edges of the seasons, depending on when you want to go. But yeah, certainly, Dave, I think we've noticed that, haven't we? Obviously, we've got a lot of new Ever trackers, but we've also got a lot of existing who want to go on some trips again. And it's been one of the challenges because of COVID for sure.
Yeah, I think the first year after COVID, every destination not
Yeah.
just adventure travel, is
Hey,
going to
Nick.
look a little bit different compared to what would be considered normal. Because
Yeah.
yes, there are going to probably be more people than you'd expect, but we're managing that by not swelling the groups, to like 20, 30 per group. We're very fortunate that we have the team over there to be able to run multiple trips. We just, by the nature of the way we do it, we tend to attract a lot of guides that want to work for us. So we kind of have our pick of the best guides. So we can run multiple trips simultaneously with smaller groups and stuff like that. Not just Snake Kit is a bar of chocolate, your last cigarette, and a hip flask. That's awesome. If that's the case, I
Wow.
pretty much carry a Snake Kit with me in the UK everywhere I go. And what you think that was
Brilliant.
water? But yeah, awesome. So another question we have here from Wayne. Going on the EBC three passes trip, will I benefit from one of your training weekends, or will a specific winter training weekend be more beneficial? To be honest, I think that with the three passes trip, you're not necessarily going to be doing anything technical. There's no peak climbing. You are going over
Yeah.
some high passes. So if there is some snow, the guides will provide you with some of the universally fitting crampons. Quite often they're like chains and stuff that go around a normal hiking boot.
Yeah.
Having said that, I think our training weekends, the ones that we run in Brecon, are beneficial for everybody, no matter what trip you go on. Because they do turn you into like a sort of an expert before you arrive. So it's almost like a live like this that lasts 3 days,
Yeah.
Friday through to Sunday. So you may never tune in for another one again, but you will enjoy it. And I think most people that have been on there have said that it's really beneficial because
Yeah.
we get to spend a lot of time together talking over every aspect of the trip in unique detail. And also we'll pack a kit bag, so 100% of everything you need to go on the three passes trip. If it ain't in the bag, I ain't brought it. I pack as seriously as if I'm going on there, and then I let everyone just go through the bag and check it all out. So
Yeah.
and in actual fact, is one of my items today is speaking to the accommodation and things like that up in Brecon to
Nice,
line up
Dave.
a few of those.
Also, as well, I mean, especially around the three peaks. Obviously, you got April next year. The weather's going to be pretty decent. You're unlikely. I say unlikely because you never know. To get like in terms of winter mountaineering conditions, it's very rare. I mean, that being said, we have had get that right. People who are and ever trekkers who have gone over some of the passes, and they've needed either some ice spikes or some crampons, and the guides sort that out locally. If the conditions allow, so you don't need to take them with you. But as Dave said, any time that you're spending out in the mountains hiking, or even if you do, if you get the chance, I mean, you go in April. I know that we're going to be doing certainly next winter. I mean, we wanted to run them this winter, but because of the lockdowns in the UK, we couldn't. But certainly next winter, we'll be doing some winter skills up in North Wales and Scotland. With our good friend Steve at Aim Higher. So yeah, it's definitely going to be an opportunity for you to do that. But I wouldn't say it's a necessity for you. I don't think like you have to, do that before you go. But it's not going to hurt. And who knows? It might inspire you to want to, after doing EBC, you might want to go and try a 6,000 meter peak, or try Toop Cal in winter or something different. I know for me, as soon as I stepped on, I love the snow. I love winter conditions. I love the challenge of it, and as soon as there's snow, like I'm out. I'm doing it. So yeah, you could fall in love with the winter conditions, mate, and you're in trouble then.
Yeah.
Brilliant, good question though.
Yeah, just Andrew. Yeah, we are talking about the three passes, but our trip is the three peaks, three passes.
Yeah.
Because we also take in the viewpoints of like Gokyo-ri, Kalapata, and Nangasa, which is like the three peaks that are not the passes. So it's because our trip's a little bit different. But 3P, if you want to summarize.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, good shot.
Kia Huli said, super excited for Kilimanjaro, but quite worried about the training. I'm round and old. Any tips? Makes no difference how old you are, or necessarily how round you are. Kilimanjaro it is tough. So you want to do some training. I always say train as much as you can. You don't have to train to any specific level to be able to do it, because I've seen super fit people fail, and I've seen super round people make it up there and down with
Yes.
relative ease. So what it's about is getting out regularly, putting some strength and endurance in your legs. Also perhaps lifting some weights just to get your back strong, because you are going to be carrying a pack for 8 days solid. So it's all the normal stuff. Is nothing too scientific. It's about cardio. It's about strength and endurance. And if I was going to concentrate on any one of them, I would say hiking is the best you can do. Hiking and cycling pretty much is all the training I do these days. Well, actually, I'll be honest, I don't do any of that at the moment. But hiking is good. Cycling is good. But also don't forget, that it's about your determination as well.
Yeah.
The determination factor is equal to the fitness, if not more so, because where your fitness can let you down, your mind and the drive to actually go can compensate for. So most people that I see turn around on things like Kilimanjaro, it's not so much a failure of the body. Like people always think that altitude perhaps will be the number one reason for turning around.
Yeah.
At least on our route, the Lamosho route, I think altitude is less of a factor, and it's more about being tough and having the endurance and the mindset to have an adventure and accept it's going to suck some days and it's going to be hard some days, but then it's going to be great some days and it's going to be awesome. So
yeah, exactly, Dave. And I think you hit on some good points there around obviously fitness is important. The more you do care, the more you'll enjoy it, mate. And it's going to be hard regardless, and if you're okay with that and if you're all right with the challenge, then you're in the right place. And we'd love to help you on your journey, and doing it. And yeah, Dave said there, just get out, just do some hiking. You don't need to be Superman or even Captain Planet, as Dave said. You can get out there and just hike with a pack on your back, build up the leg strength. Try not to go at it with too much anxiety. I'd say Kili is all about summit night. The other kind of 6 days before you get to almost before summit night, is relatively easy. Summit night's not, can't get around that. Hiking through the night, near enough 6,000 meters, it's tough. But if you do it and you push yourself and you want that challenge, you'll have something to remember the rest of your life. And I heard someone talk about something when someone says, oh, that's impossible, or really what they're saying is, it's impossible for them. What's achievable for you is whatever you want to achieve. And if you want to get to Kili, you'll get to Kili, no doubt.
Yep. It seems like Rebecca Butterflies and Bees has joined the Peak District group. I think that's the clan. Was it Ramona, Jerome, Rebecca, Butterflies and Bees? You've got bad knees as well, have you, Rebecca? Have you send me the advice? Like how are you coping with this? But yeah, no, that's great to see you guys getting out there regularly. I'm always seeing it on Facebook and stuff like that. That's awesome. And exactly, actually their group is sort of a fine example to follow on about what training you should be doing. Getting out, having fun, enjoying it, making everything you do enjoyable. And that's what Kilimanjaro's like. It's a little bit harder, it's a little bit tougher, but the sense of enjoyment should be the same.
Yeah, nice. Joel's actually asked. Joel, serious question. What's going on? No, great question, Joel. Do you have a maximum number to EBC? Yeah, I mean, we don't like to have a groups too big. I mean, sometimes we get private groups that might be sort of 15, 16, 17 people. Unless there's because sometimes we like to keep it roughly around 12. But we get some people who are like, can my friend wants to come, can we squeeze you in? Ideally, that's what we like to aim for. Because we don't want to have a group of, say, 30 people on the mountain. It just doesn't work as well. I think the chances of success then, because the bigger the team, they don't tend to work as well. A smaller team works closer and works better, which is why we've always kept that. But that's, again, I go back to, I might have said it to someone's question. Sorry, I can't remember who asked it, but around, dates and trying to make more capacity out there so we can actually get some of the groups a bit smaller. But again, with COVID, we don't want to stop anyone from coming with us, especially because we've had such a long time without that. If someone wants to jump on a date, even if you've got 12 people on it, 13, 14 people on it, we're going to bring them because we'd rather that and, make something happen for them, because you're all going to have an awesome time. But that's kind of where we're at. We're trying to remain as flexible as we can, with some of these things, instead of just drawing a line and saying, no, you're not allowed. Like we're trying to be a little bit more flexible in that, because we want to make it happen. And sometimes we've got to sort of think a little bit like that. So yeah, but Joel, can't wait to have you, mate. Have you with us?
Yep. Awesome.
Nice, Dave. Right, what we got? We got any more questions? I know we're coming towards the end.
I think we
A
may
lot
have
of
mopped everything up now. I can't see any that I've missed, but I'm not entirely. I think that's it.
Sorry, I just reading a couple of things. Just as I go through, a lot of convo going on, which is always great. No worries, Joel. Keir as well. Yeah, he's replied. Keir. North Wales. Mate, love it up there. Glamping pods sounds very nice. Yeah, I did see because I was up in North Wales on Friday and Saturday, and driving around, you could see some places have opened them up. Great idea. Great idea. I think, especially over the next couple of years, I think more people are into hiking, walking, trekking, climbing nowadays than ever, especially because that's all we could do during lockdown. So naturally, that's going to have a knock-on effect.
Yeah.
So yeah, get up there, mate. I wish you all the best, and yeah, maybe we'll come and drop in, but come on one of our training weekends. Yeah, we'd love to have you with us.
Awesome.
Right, Dave. We'll kind of taper this off now. I think we've kind of gone through most of the questions. I mean, obviously, it's been great. We started off talking about water, how we can save water, how important water is on our trips, some of the things we can do to maybe help out, by using water bottles, reusable ones. But any final thoughts, Dave, before we finish this week?
Yeah. So don't shower for the next week because it is conserve water week. Or if you do shower with a friend or use your own wee. So I think that we've covered off the most important factors. Yeah, but no, honestly, yeah, no, it's just something to that we want to be conscious of when we're going trekking. And again, it's not about being perfect; it's just about striving, to do your bit. But also, yeah, another great one. Oh wow! Apparently, I failed to mention Maindel Bhutans. So, oh damn, I just did. So yeah, no, yeah, my favorite boots are Maindel Bhutans at the moment with the Superfleet Trailblazer insole. Yeah, that's about it. 30-liter jacket is 30-liter rucksack is about fine. Osprey Talon's a good one. Jumbelos for sunglasses. Don't forget your sunscreen.
That's okay. That's usually every Tuesday tune, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, brilliant. Do just before we go as well, do look out for some more info around strides for guides. It'd be great to have some of you already out hiking a lot. It'd be great if you can get involved. We're looking for as many people as possible to get involved in this. So we'll obviously follow up and do some posts and we'll talk a bit more as we get towards it. But that's starting in June. So yeah, definitely strides for guides. Do look out for more info. And other than that, we'll see you next Tuesday.
Awesome. Have a good one.
See ya. Time for a drink, Dave.